Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. Please make sure you're already subscribed to the channel. If you're not, go ahead, hit the subscribe button right now. Also hit the like button, please, so we can get into the algorithm. All right. Drop a comment down below. All right. And as I get into the explanation of some of these problems, if you have a question, put your question in the comment section also. And also, please share this video with at least one other person. All right. Now, what are we doing today? We're doing some multiplication with 2-digit and 1-digit numbers, 2-digit by 1-digit numbers, but I'm showing you how to do it using mental math. Mental math. We don't need a calculator for this. We don't need a calculator. And actually, we don't need to write it out on paper. We don't need to write it on paper. Now, I'm going to write it on the board, but I'm just showing you the thought process, right? I do this mentally, and I'm going to show you too how you can do it mentally. And when I thought of this, I had my nephews in mind, right? Three of my nephews, right? Zaire, Maceo, and Zen. I had them in mind because I want them to know how to do this. Okay, because it's going to make their life better. This is a quality of life issue. Mathematics or mathematical literacy and mathematics proficiency is a quality of life issue. And I want my nephews to have a better quality of life, right, than they would have if they did not have mathematical proficiency, right? Because I care about them. So, Maceo, Zen, Zaire, make sure y'all paying attention. Make sure you got your paper. Make sure you got a pencil or a pen. All right, you ready to work. Lock in. All right, now, in case you're wondering, who is this brother that's on my shirt? This is the ancestor Walter Rodney. Walter Rodney. Walter Rodney was a historian, a college professor, a writer, a revolutionary, an organizer. Brother was born in Guyana. He taught in Tanzania. He taught in Jamaica. He was a global scholar. As I said, revolutionary, black man, a father, a husband. You know what I'm saying? One of the people that a lot of people don't want you to know about. Walter Rodney. He's somebody you should study and you should look up and pick for a school project, right? And because most schools they're not going to mention him in the curriculum, and we know why. All right, I got a couple of his books from my library. This is probably his most famous book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. All right, what else we got here? We got Groundings with My Brothers. Groundings with My Brothers. I think this is a collection of work on some essays from when he was spending time in Jamaica. All right, and then we got Walter Rodney Speaks, another collection of essays and lectures that he gave. And we also have another book called Walter Rodney: A Promise of Revolution. All right, and this last but not least, this is not all the books about him or by him, but this is like the extent of my collection and my personal library. Walter Rodney: A History of the Guyanese Working People from 1881 to 1905. And as I said, he was a Guyanese brother. He was from Guyana. So, this is he did research on his own space, you know what I'm saying, the country where he was born in, but a Pan-Africanist. So he understood that, okay, even though I was born in Guyana, right? That's just the issue of where the slave ship dropped my people off. All right. So yeah. All right, so make sure you familiarize yourself with Walter Rodney. Walter Rodney. All right, now let's get into the multiplication. So first we got 25 times 8, and then we got 75 times 9, and we got 14 times 8. Now, what might these multiplication equations represent? They might represent, well, okay, if you have 8 quarters, how much money is that in cents? Because a quarter is equal to 25 cents. So if you have 8 of them, how much money is that? 25 times 8, right? And then number 2, 75 times 9. Let's say you wanted to, let's say a bags of chips was 75 cents. And let's say you need to, it's a party at school and your contribution is bags of chips. So you're going to buy 9 bags. You need to know how much money do you need? How much money do you need in cents, which you can convert to dollars, right? Just like with the quarters, right? 8 quarters, you find out how much money that is in cents, and then you can convert that to dollars. But with the chips, 75 cents for 1 bag, you need 9 bags, right? That's your contribution, right? So you want to know how much money that's going to cost. So you can plan ahead. So you can go to the store with the right amount of money. So you can make the purchase. All right. And then last but not least, 14 times 8. Now 14, there are 14 days in 2 weeks, right? That's a bi-weekly pay period, right? Your parents, your grandparents, uncles, aunties know about a bi-weekly pay period. Bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. What often happens is when people work jobs, they work for 2 weeks and they get paid for a 2-week period. They most likely don't get paid every single day. They most likely don't get paid every week. They most likely get paid every 2 weeks, right? So we call that a bi-weekly pay period. Bi means two. It's like a bicycle has two wheels, right? Bi-weekly, 2 weeks, right? Bi-weekly pay period. Let's say there were 8 bi-weekly pay periods, and we want to know how many days that is. How many days are in 8 bi-weekly pay periods? 14 days in one bi-weekly pay period. So how many days are in 8 bi-weekly pay periods? All right, 14 times 8 is the math that we would do. We would do the multiplication. We do 14 times 8. All right, so now let's get into it. So now we're not going to use a calculator for this. We're not going to, use the traditional multiplication algorithm for this, even though I guess you could do that mentally in your head if you wanted to. But we're going to break it down in a different way. All right, so let's do 25 times 8. All right, 25 times 8. Now I'm going to do the 25. I'm going to break the 25 down into 20 plus 5. 20 plus 5. Why? So that I can distribute the 8 to the 20 plus 5. I want to distribute, meaning to give out. Give the 8 to the 20. Give the 8 to the 5. And then I take those two products and I add them together, right? Distribute the 8 to the 20, distribute the 8 to the 5. Take those two products and add them together, right? So now, how do I do 8 times 20? Now, 8 times 20 is the same thing as saying 8 times 2 times 10. Why is that? How do I know that? Because I know that 20 is the same thing as saying 2 times 10. And if 20 is the same thing as 2 times 10, then 8 times 20 is the same thing as saying 8 times 2 times 10. So if I do 8 times 2 and I know my multiplication facts by heart, I suggest that you know yours. Make sure you know your multiplication facts. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 10 is 160. Because when you do 16 times 10, you're just expanding it by a factor of 10, right? Which means you basically just, the shortcut is just to attach a 0 to 16 and you get 160, right? So this right here, 8 times 20 is 160. And then you distribute the 8 to the 5, which means do 8 times 5. Make sure you know your multiplication facts by heart. Make sure you know that 8 times 5 is 40. Just like you should know that 5 times 8 is 40. 8 times 5 is 40. 5 times 8 is 40. So then you bring this down. That's going to be 40. Because we gave the 8 to the 20, gave the 8 to the 5. And what's 160 plus 40? 160 plus 40 is 200. 160 plus 40 is 200. We also have to know how to add, right? And we got 160 plus 40. So if you know what 16 plus 4 is, then you should be able to figure out what 160 plus 40 is, right? If you know your addition facts, then you should be able to bring that understanding to this skill and use it, right? If you know 16, again, if you know that 16 plus 4 is 20, then 160 plus 40 should be 200 because 160 is just 16 tens and 40 is just 4 tens. So altogether, how many tens do you have? You have 20 tens, and 20 tens is the same thing as 200. So we got 200. All right, 25 times 8 is 200. So that means that 8 quarters is 200 cents. 200 cents is the same thing as $2. 200 cents is the same thing as $2. All right, 200 pennies. Think about it. 200 pennies is $2, right? Just like 20 dimes is $2. But 200 pennies or 200 cents is the same thing as $2. All right, now let's do 75 times 9. Again, the situation. It's a party in class. It's a party in school. You said you would contribute 9 bags of chips. One bag of chips costs 75 cents. You got to contribute 9. We need to know how much money is that going to cost. 75 times 9. All right, 75 is the bigger number than 9. It's the 2-digit number. So we're going to break the 2-digit number down. Now we can either do 80 minus 5 for this, or we could do 70 plus 5. Both of them equal 75, right? Think about it. Yeah, 80 minus 5 is 75. 70 plus 5 is 75, right? So we could do both. So let's do 70 plus 5. I'm going to do 70 plus 5. All right. And then we're going to distribute the 9. Distributive property. Distributive property, right? You don't need to wait till you get to high school and in the algebra class to learn about the distributive property. You learn about that right now when you're just doing basic multiplication, 2-digit times 1-digit. All right. Not meaning we distribute, we give out the 9 to the 70 and give it to the 5. Give the 9 to the 70, give the 9 to the 5. Give the 9 to the 70, give the 9 to the 5. What's 9 times 70? 9 times 70 is the same thing as 9 times 7 times 10. Because 70 is the same thing as 7 times 10. Because we know 7 times 10 is 70. 9 times 7, you need to know your multiplication facts. 9 times 7 is 63, right? And the best way to memorize your multiplication facts is by doing multiplication, by actually practicing multiplication. You got to practice multiplication. So 9 times 7 is 63, right? and then you attach the 0, you get 630. And then you do 9 times 5, which is 45. Then you got 630 plus 45. 630 plus 45 is 675. So 675. So 75 cents for one bag of chips. 9 bags of chips will be 675 cents. 675 cents is essentially 675 pennies, which would equal $6.75. $6.75. That's how much money you would need to buy 9 bags of chips if they're 75 cents each. $6.75 because it's 675 cents or 675 pennies. All right. That's $6.75. So you need to go to the store, which is $6.75, or just bring $7. This would be on the safe side. Make sure you get your proper change though. Don't get taken advantage of by an unsavory or dishonest store owner because you didn't know how to calculate your change. You must know how to calculate your change. All right, now let's go to number 3. 14 times 8. How many days are in 8 bi-weekly pay periods? How many days in one bi-weekly pay period is 14 days because it's 7 days in 1 week and it's 7 days in the next week. That's 14 days. If it's 8 bi-weekly pay periods, how many days is that? We're going to do 14 times 8. So 14 times 8, the bigger number, the 2-digit number, we break that down. Let's just be different. Instead of doing 10 plus 4, let's do 20 minus 6. 20 minus 6. And then we're going to distribute the 8 to the 20, distribute the 8 to the negative 6. This is not a 6. This is not a 6. This is a negative 6. 6 and negative 6 are not the same thing. If there's a minus sign in front of the number, that means that number is a negative. Negative. You must say the word negative. Practice saying the word negative. Negative. Negative 6. A lot of students don't like to say the word negative, and this leads to them getting incorrect answers. It's not a 6. It's a negative 6. This is a 5 because it's a positive 5. There's a plus sign in front of it. This is a 5 because there's a plus sign in front of it. It's a positive 5 or a 5. This is not a 6. This, when it has a negative sign in front of it or a minus sign, negative or minus sign, that means it's a negative 6. You must say that. All right. So now 8 times 20. 8 times 20 is the same thing as saying 8 times 2 times 10. So 8 times 2 is 16. Attached to 0, you get 160. Then I'm going to put my minus sign because I know my product is going to be negative. Because whenever you multiply a positive by a negative number, your product is always a negative number. Your product is always going to be a negative number. Whenever you multiply a positive number, positive 8, by a negative number, negative 6, your product is always going to be a negative number. So 8 times 6 from your multiplication facts is 48, but a positive times a negative gives you a negative. So it's going to be negative 48. So it will be 160 minus 48. Now we got to subtract. We can break the 48 down into 40 and 8. 40 and 8. What's 160 minus 40? 120. And then subtract 8 from 120. Again, 160 minus 40 is 120. Then do 120 minus 8. That's 112. 112. So that means that there are 112 days in 8 bi-weekly pay periods. 112 days in 8 bi-weekly. Bi-weekly. Bi means 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. 14 days. 8 bi-weekly pay periods. 14 times 8. 112. All right. And you can make up your own problems to practice with. You can practice this skill of multiplication, multiplying 2 digits by 1 digit, 1 digit by 2 digits. You can just make random numbers up and just follow the method, right? Just to get yourself acclimated to it. And what I wrote down is what you would do inside your head, right? You don't need to write this down, right? It's not going to take this long. When you're doing the mental math, it's not going to take as long as I did. It took longer here because I'm giving you a detailed explanation. I'm providing you a detailed explanation. That's why it takes longer. But in normal circumstances, it would take, because think about it, 25 times 8, 20 plus 5 times 8, 20 times 8 is 160. 5 times 8 is 40. 160 plus 40, 200. That was less than 10 seconds. Now, when I wrote it out, it didn't take that long because I'm giving you a detailed explanation, right? So keep that in mind. All right. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you drop a comment down below or a question in the comment section. Share this video with at least one other person. And also do your research on Walter Rodney. Walter Rodney. All right. Google him, look him up, right? Do your research, get a book about him, you know, do him, research him for a school project. Do a report on him for a school project. Your classmates need to know, your teacher might need to know about Walter Rodney. All right. See y'all later. Peace.